Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. Generally like to talk a load of bollocks, tabletop gaming in general, and in this video we are going to be talking about our top 10 games that we believe did not need a reprint or a second edition. And remember, if your beloved game is or isn't on this list, then that's because A, we haven't played it, or B, we think it's shit. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you after this. So number 10 on this list is a game that we really enjoyed when it came out about 20 years ago. It was number 1 on the nasty little website's top 100 board games of all time for ages. And for some bizarre reason, Ravensburger decided to reprint this game, and they made a complete and utter fuck up of it. It's Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico sees you taking control of a plantation on, funnily enough, Puerto Rico. You'll be harvesting coffee, cotton and all that sort of stuff, and you'll be flogging it to far off markets in an attempt to get a lot of cash, build some buildings and win the game, right? This was reprinted with the intention of reaching a more inclusive market, but they ended up fucking this one up so badly that they ended up having to halt the production and completely revamp the game, yeah? Problems that they had with this game is they forgot to include some of the tiles in each copy of the game, and some of the building tiles didn't actually tell you what special benefits you get from them, yeah? So it basically rendered the game completely unplayable. Why they had to touch the original, I don't know. Maybe there was some slightly sensitive material in the original, but it wasn't that overt. So this is a testament to the fact that if it ain't broke, don't try and fucking fix it then. So number 9 on our list of our top 10 games that didn't need a reprint / second edition. This game is Fireball Island, right? This was a game that was released in the 80s or maybe late 70s, 80s. And basically it's a marble game, yeah? You'll be moving your adventure around an island, and at some point the volcano on the island will explode and marbles will fly around the board, hopefully not knocking your adventurer off, right? Restoration Games decided to reprint this, and the reason it didn't need a second edition was because it was fucking dog shit the first time round, yeah? They did try and embellish it with some extra stuff, but the core mechanic of a marble rolling down a track may or may not knock your adventure off was still prevalent in the game, and it's just basically a pile of shit. They even released a budget version of the reprint, which made the game even fucking worse than it even was in the fucking 80s, right? And the fact that Restoration Games charged like 200 quid for the Kickstarter of this was absolutely shocking. So yeah, Fireball Island, probably one of the worst games that was ever released in the 80s, and if you bought this, you're a fucking idiot. It's number 8 on our list of our top 10 games that didn't need a reprint is Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders is one of our favourite games of all time. It sees you building a full-scale civilization out of a bunch of cards, right? You've even got a bit of military shit in here, and it plays in half an hour regardless of player count, yeah? Seven Wonders just didn't need to be reprinted. It was absolutely fine as it stood in its first edition, but they decided to revamp it. Didn't actually change anything in the game apart from making the components look different, which meant that if you invested your time and money in the first edition and bought all the expansions, they were no longer going to be compatible with any further expansions that were created for the second edition. This is a great example of how board game publishers try and rip people off. They force you into rebuying games that you already own that are perfectly fine. And we're not going to touch the second edition with a 10-foot dog shit ended barge pole, because the first edition is completely and utterly fine for us, yeah? The only thing we're missing is the Leaders expansion, and sadly the second edition Leaders expansion is not compatible. So if you've got the Leaders expansion and you don't want it, we will gladly take it off your hands. Just get in contact with us, our usual email address or smoke signals or whatever you want to do, and we'll take it off your hands. Cheers for that. Number 7 on this list of our top 10 games that didn't need a reprint is Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, look, I understand why the print run ended. Obviously Fantasy Flight lost the BSG license, but it was subsequently reprinted with a Cthulhu theme, and that just drove me up the fucking wall. Cthulhu is fucking everywhere these days. It's more common than the amount of dog shit I have to avoid whilst taking my kids to school. And they could have chosen any other intellectual property. They could have chosen some other fucking space-based TV show, but no, they went for the cheap option. They went for the Lovecraftian Cthulhu license that doesn't need to be paid for, and just made the game completely unappealing for us. We ended up buying the Spanish version and translating it ourselves, but a really, really kind-hearted individual from Brighton in the UK decided to send us their copy of Battlestar Galactica for literally fuck all. Well, I did give him 20 quid so you can get a few beers, yeah. But if you are watching, Mr. Brighton man, cheers for that. So yeah, is it worth paying the exorbitant prices for Battlestar Galactica? Well, seeing as Unfathomable is around about 60 quid and you could probably pick up a battered copy of BSG for about 100 quid, then I would say yes. But as it stands, BSG should never have been reprinted with a Cthulhu theme because Cthulhu sucks. Number 6 on this list is a game that we love very, very dearly. It's a game that's based on a TV show from the 2010s. It's Spartacus, a game of blood and treachery. In Spartacus, you will be taking on the role of a dominus. You'll be hiring slaves. You'll be hiring different gladiators. You'll be engaging in intrigue, playing different cards to try and fuck each other over with the intent of augmenting your prowess in the gladiatorial arena. Spartacus, a game of blood and treachery, came with 2 fantastic expansions that made the game even better. And the publisher, I don't know if it's Gale Force 9 that reprinted it, maybe it was, they decided to take all the best bits out of the game and turn it into a low budget fuckfest. You can find the 2nd edition for Spartacus in a bargain bucket bin covered in mould and geriatric semen because it's just fucking awful. They shrunk the box, they made all the components worse, the card stock was crap, and it's just a fucking abomination, yeah. So if you are desperate to play Spartacus, and you should do because it's one of our favourite games of all time, then hunt down the 1st edition with the Serpent and the Wolf expansion and the other one which I can't remember the name of, and make a promise to yourself that if you ever see the 2nd edition of Spartacus out in the wild, then burn it. So number 5 on our list of our top 10 games that didn't need a reprint or a 2nd edition is Kemet. Kemet is one of the best games ever made, hands down. It's been in our top 10 of our top 100 board games of all time since we started this channel, yeah. And for some bizarre reason, Matt ago decided to kickstart a 2nd edition of this called Blood in the Sand, but we like to call it Blood in the Shit. They changed the artwork considerably. They made it more muted, pastel colours. They made the board look completely fucking awful. And they shrunk the size of everything down to a Lilliputian level. I am exaggerating a little bit, but it's just for cinematic effect, yeah. Don't know why they decided to create Blood and Sand, yeah. The 1st edition Kemet was absolutely fantastic. There was some fantastic expansions. One called Tower City, which added more power tiles and a nice little board where you could send your priests and shit and get extra stuff. And there was a 1 versus all mode in the Kemet Seth expansion. This was all tossed into the fucking sea just so Matago could rake in a load of extra cash through Kickstarter. And lo and behold, they're doing it again this year. They're going to re-kickstart Blood in the Shit. And I'll be staying away from that like I would an island full of lepers. I'm completely satisfied with my 1st edition of Kemet, and I'll probably be buried with it like a fucking pharaoh. Number 4 on this list is a game by Stefan Feld. It's Castles of Burgundy. You might think I'm a bit fucking mental for saying this, but I actually really, really like my filthy, dirty copy of Castles of Burgundy. It cost me 15 quid way back when. There's something really charming about the fact that the game is so cheap and nasty, but contains within a game that has almost infinite possibilities. Well, it's probably Stefan Feld's best game. Not only did they release a revamped version for more than double the cost, but they decided to kickstart a Castles of Burgundy deluxe edition that cost upwards of 200 quid if you went all in. And be honest, some of you went all in. I just don't understand how you can justify spending 200 odd quid on a Euro game that was released for 15 quid originally, right? And it seems to me that the producers of this game are literally trolling people, yeah? I mean, yeah, it's a good game. You can get just as good an experience with the really thin, nasty cardboard copy as you can with the deluxe super duper Kickstarter bullshit copy. And it's no surprise to me that as soon as the Kickstarter games started shipping, all of the Facebook buy, sell, exchange board game groups had the deluxe version being sold because people probably didn't really want it and they thought, fuck me, I just spent 200 quid on a 15 quid game, yeah. So yeah, Castles Burgundy didn't need to be reprinted. If you are being brutally honest with yourself, did spend 200 quid on a 15 quid game, then you should probably feel a little bit ashamed, seeing as there are so many starving people in the world. Number 3 on the list of our top 10 games that should never have been reprinted is a game called Libertalia. This is a game by Paolo Mori. It sees you drawing a number of cards with pirate-themed individuals on it. You'll be playing these cards and lining them up in order of influence, yeah? And then you'll activate all the cards in the day phase, and then in the night phase, getting booty, getting points will let you win the game, yeah? Jamie Stegmaier decided to take it upon himself to get the license for this and remove everything that was appealing out of the original, right? Basically replaced all of the pirates with anthropomorphic animals. He sterilised the dirty feel of the original and basically metaphorically castrated the whole fucking thing. I was sent a review copy by Stonemaier Games and I was just shocked as to how sterile the experience was. There were a few extra little bits that were thrown in that did make the game a bit better, but when you're removing 99% what made the original game so charming, then you're just going to be left with an empty husk, and it was just complete and utter wasted exercise, yeah? And it's no surprise to me that I no longer get sent review copies of Stonemaier Games, yeah? But who gives a fuck? Game's good, I buy it myself, won't I? So number 2 on the list of our top 10 games that didn't actually need to be reprinted is a game called Terra Mystica. This is a game that has actually had 2 reprints. Firstly, in the form of a game called Gaia Project, and then secondly, a more recent iteration called The Age of Innovation, right? Got a couple of problems with this, is that Terra Mystica was probably the perfect Euro game as it stood. Okay, the theme was a little bit lacking. There wasn't really much to anchor the factions to the actual theme, but who gives a shit? It's a fucking Euro game, innit? The Gaia Project basically didn't have any kind of differences with the original Terra Mystica. The differences were really, really minor. Obviously it had a space theme, yeah, but there wasn't really that much difference. And yeah, okay, there's going to be people out there, maybe not you lot at the back, but there's going to be people out there saying that the differences between the two were vast, but I don't believe you. You are basically a liar. I haven't played The Age of Innovation, but if it's linked to Terra Mystica, then I don't want to know, because I've already got Terra Mystica and it's a fantastic game with the 2 expansions, and that's enough for me, yeah? I don't need to buy different iterations of the same thing, yeah? I like cheese and onion flavoured crisps. Why would I want to go out and buy a fucking multi-pack with salt and vinegar in it, right? So yeah, Terra Mystica is a perfectly fine game as it stands, and you don't need 2 different reprints, do you? So number 1 on the list of our top 10 games that didn't need a second edition is Eclipse. The fact that they released a second edition of this game really fucked me off. It was released just as we completed the purchase of all the expansions for edition, right? Eclipse is basically a Euro economic game dressed up to look like a clone of Twilight Imperium, yeah? When we first got this, it was touted as a way of getting a TI-free experience in the space of 2 hours, which was completely not fucking bullshit. It came with some fantastic expansions, came with a nice ship expansion, gave you some extra miniatures. There was another couple of expansions that added more tiles to the game and loads of different fiddly components that you could chuck in if you wanted to, and it just became an absolutely huge behemoth of a game, yeah? And then lo and behold, they decided to streamline the game and release a second edition of this game with all of the best bits of the first edition and its expansions, yeah? The problem I've got with this is, why would you bother releasing streamlined second edition if you went to all the trouble of creating all those intricate expansions, yeah? Just spent 5 years selling all these expansions, and then you come along, say, look, we've removed the majority content of the expansions, put the best bits in the box, and then we're going to charge you 150 quid fucking privilege of buying the same game with stuff left out that you already own. So yeah, fuck Eclipse second edition. I've picked up everything for the first edition. I even downloaded the Santa character for it, yeah? So don't you dare try and take that away from me. And it's probably one of the biggest disappointments, yeah, because I see Eclipse second edition on sale quite regularly, but then I look at what I've got down there and I think I'm not going to succumb to the bullshit marketing strategy, all these different publishers, yeah? I've said it loads of times and I'll say it one more time, but generally speaking, do not buy games that you already own unless there is a fucking good reason to do so, yeah? So there you go, that's our top 10 list of games that didn't need a second edition or indeed a reprint. Tell us down in the comments below which games you think didn't need a second edition, or which were ruined by emergence of a second edition. Till then, remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel. Hit the like button, all that YouTube bullshit. See you next time.